to be talking about the project Assessments for Reflection. This is the quarterly plan for the project. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the project goals. This project aims to create a software or a general product for students to get better feedback on their assessments. This is to ensure that students can actually get something from the feedback rather than just a grade or a number in order to improve the next time they have to take a test or learn. Generally, it helps them to learn the subject. So the goal of the project is to give students a product that is trustworthy and that is useful. So the quarter goals for this quarter, as this project is in its very, very early stages, is to first determine the characteristics that are necessary for a successful product. After discussion with Nell, I kind of saw that we need the product to be trustworthy so that students can actually believe the feedback that they're getting from their peers, as well as useful. Now, determining what the word useful means in the context of feedback took some research. So that's also a quarter goal, is to kind of define the word useful and find characteristics to overcome that obstacle and make sure that the feedback is truly useful in the right sense. Another quarterly goal is to get a basic prototype ready to iterate on with further research. This could be a simple paper prototype, as this project is in very early stages. And it's important that when we flesh out the characteristics and the design argument in order to create a well-suited product. But in order to expedite this process, we can use a system that already exists, Mechanical TA, which is a very simple version of the project that we want to create, which is a way to get peer reviews to give feedback to other students. And so there will be a lot of iterating over that software in this process. So the end user should be able to use the product that we create and give us better data to iterate using. Because right now we're using Mechanical TA's data, which is why part of the next few sprints work is to go through that data and actually determine, using the characteristics in our design argument, what other data might be necessary to truly get a good product. So the design goals, as mentioned before, is that we want to create something that's trustworthy and useful. And we also want it to be easy to use and easy to get the feedback from. And in terms of recruiting testers, we need testers who are currently using the Mechanical TA platform or have used it in the past, because as seen, the Mechanical TA has increased in its ability over the past 2 years. So getting people over all stages could show us a trend in which the way the platform is moving towards, so that we can use that when iterating through. In terms of technology, as mentioned, we're going to begin with Mechanical TA, as that is a great platform for us to jump off of, as well as has a lot of data for us to sift through. So that's another goal of some of the sprints, is to go through that data and determine what might be additionally necessary or might not be as necessary, and coupling that with some user interviews to determine what students find most useful. We could get a lot of good design argument data. We'd also like this technology to be easy to integrate with school platforms. This is looking further into the future for the product as a whole once it's ready and fleshed out, because we want it to be able to be used by many schools and not just Northwestern. So some of the big research questions that I'm going to be attempting to answer this quarter and in the future is what feedback is necessary to help students improve. So this is what I mentioned earlier, that what is actually useful feedback. And after conducting some initial research from reading papers, it tends to be feedback that is geared towards what the student feels they lack in. Also, too much feedback can be bad, because too much feedback might cause the student to not pay attention to any one specific location of their work. Also, feedback needs to be timely. Still researching to find out a little bit more about what is useful feedback and what helps students improve, but those are some initial findings. Also, how do students feel about peer reviewing? Because currently that seems to be the biggest platform that people are using for this assessments for reflection type of research problem, because it's the fastest way to get data, and it's requires the least amount of additional manpower, because you're utilizing the power of a massive class. So we want to see how students truly feel about that, whether they feel like it's trustworthy, or whether they take the peer review seriously, or how they feel about reviewing their own peers. A problem that came up in another research paper was that peer reviewing can sometimes lead to plagiarism, which is in fact a very important factor we need to consider when looking at peer reviewing and seeing how that plays a role in assessments. Thirdly is, in what time frame is giving feedback most useful? A research paper actually that I read recently in my earlier sprint was that the best feedback is given within 24 hours. Anything given after that tends to be lost on the student, because it might not be fresh in their minds, or they might not put it to as good of use. So another research goal is that the reason that it's important to start with these questions is it's important to start with the basics to create a product that will solve the big issues first before looking into the nitty-gritty about these research problems. So the way that I hope to achieve these goals is by starting off with a very broad sense of research, and reading papers, seeing the data that currently exists, talking to students, so that we can veer in the right direction before even starting on any design. Using all this research, specifically from user interviews, could help us get some good characteristics in order to overcome the obstacles that we see in trying to find a trustworthy and useful solution. After conducting this research and getting some characteristics, it's important to look at the technology available. As we've seen, peer reviewing is a really good tool. Mechanical TA is a great software that we could build off of, but really also just exploring the various technologies that are available for this kind of problem, and how to integrate that with the characteristics we want to create. After doing that, we'd like to begin prototyping, initially with paper prototypes that we can test on users before spending time delving into the platforms, as this project is so new and doesn't have much prior testing. So yeah, those are the project goals for this quarter. Yeah.